This place is a must visit if you love fish and quaint, small seaside towns, so come with me to Homer, Alaska. Welcome back to another day of my quarter life gap year, and today we're spending it in Homer. It's a 4-hour drive from Anchorage, and we left in the morning, got there around the afternoon. Along the drive, we stopped at North America's most westerly highway point, this little ocean beachside. There's this Russian Orthodox church that we stopped by, which had this little view of this town. And now we're finally arriving at Homer, which as you can see is the halibut fishing capital of the world. And then we finally got to the Homer Spit, which is a geographical landmark. It's a 4.5-mile long stretch of land that has a lot of the downtown, so a lot of shops, restaurants, boutiques. Here's a little glimpse of the drive-in. Okay, now we're finally at the main area of the Spit. Unsurprisingly, it was a pretty gloomy, rainy Alaska day, but that didn't stop us from just enjoying the scenery of the beach and just strolling along the boardwalks. People after a fishing charter, analyzing the fish they caught. The iconic Salty Dawg Saloon, which I'll come back to tomorrow. Once again, not the sunniest day, but we walked along the small boat harbor to see the boats and the view of the mountains. I forgot to take a picture here, but I got some seafood chowder as a snack, and then we headed back to the town out of the Spit. We stopped by Grace Ridge Brewing Company for a quick beer, and then Alice's Champagne Palace for popcorn shrimp, and that was our night. It looks pretty bright out, but we're settled in at our campsite and car camping for the night. Alright, good morning, and look at that beautiful sun. Our neighbors in the van next to us had the cutest puppy. Anyways, we were supposed to go on a glacier kayaking tour because I've always wanted to kayak up close next to a glacier, but unfortunately all the tour guides ended up being sick, so we had to move our tour to the following day before our drive back to Anchorage, and we changed it to a glacier hike and ocean kayak instead. Unfortunate, but at least we had another full day to explore the town. Okay, so back to the Spit we go. At least today was much more sunnier, so it honestly was a beautiful day to walk around the town. Like, look at that difference in the blue sky at the beach. Everyone was out and about with people fishing, boats out, and people walking around. After walking down the whole Spit, we saw some people eating fish tacos and had to try some. With Homer being the fishing capital of the world, we obviously had to try the halibut taco as well as their rockfish taco. Both were delicious. The scenery at the boat harbor was way better than yesterday, and it's so clear that you can see the reflection on the water. And now it's finally time to stop by the Salty Dawg Saloon. So this iconic bar is one of the few establishments that's older than 50 years in Alaska. It's known for its hundreds of dollar bills all over the ceilings, walls, life rings, you name it. Literally, there's not a space that isn't covered by money, and hopefully ours is still there if you ever visit. After that, we drove back from the Spit and hit up Sweet Gale Mead Works and Cider House for a flight of mead and some chess. To continue our bar hopping, because what else do we really do, we grabbed a cocktail at the Twisted Goat and then finally ended the day back at Alice's Champagne Palace to try some fried halibut. And we were lucky enough to even get a live show of our bartender singing, serenading. Oh no. We got back to our campground perfectly with the sun setting, which is still crazy to me that the sun hasn't set at almost 10 p.m. And that's it for today for our day in Homer. Good morning for our last day in Homer, and we're going kayaking today. As I said, we were supposed to do the glacier kayak yesterday, but had to switch it to the ocean kayak. So we arrived at 10 a.m. at the pier where we got on our water taxi for about 25 minutes. We're going into Kachemak Bay State Park where we'll be starting our kayaking. While we waited for the guides to set up the kayaks, we saw a lion's mane jellyfish floating near the shore.
Lion mane jellyfish? Of course, I was thinking, don't touch it.
And then we were off. Basically, we were kayaking in a group of 8 through the bay as we tried to spot wildlife either in the water or along the tree line. And our first sighting was a bald eagle in the trees above us. After this, our guide pointed out this starfish lounging on the rock since the tides were lower, and we saw a bunch of starfish on the sea floor through the water, but the video doesn't show it very well. He picked it up and let us hold it all for a minute or so, and then we returned it gently back to its rock. It's starting to get sunnier now as we kayaked towards the mountains, and then we spotted a few brown lumps, which happened to be a family of sea otters. We've seen some otters from the boat in Seward and Glacier Bay, but they were swimming pretty close alongside our kayaks now. Some were definitely a little nervous and standing straight up in the water, so we didn't want to get too close to them.
Some bar right in the middle. That's nice. Nope, I'm further east. Yeah, near
Finally, we arrived to Saddle Trailhead, where we would start our 3-mile round-trip hike to Gruing Glacier. The guides gave us some hot chocolate to warm up and then told us to be back in a few hours for the water taxi back to Homer. The hike is a little switchbacky in the beginning, but then it evens out and ends at this beautiful lake with the glacier at the end between the mountains. And then on their way back, you get views of Kachemak Bay and Halibut Cove. Once the guides were coming back to pick us up, the tide had come in, so the beach we were standing on before was completely gone. The boat basically had to be extended to some rocks for us to climb onto, but at least the dog was welcoming us back on board. On our way back to Homer, we took a few detours. We passed through Halibut Cove, where many of the houses are on stilts to adjust to the highs and lows of the tide. True to Alaskan weather, the ride started getting a little bumpy and it was dark out, but then all of a sudden an orca whale popped out literally in front of our boat. Even the guide was amazed, and we stopped the boat to try to see if the orca would pop back up, but sadly it didn't. It only came up one more time a bit further away and then disappeared. Our next stop on the detour was to Gull Island, which is a tiny rocky island in the middle of the sea, and it's home to 10,000 nesting seabirds like puffins, cormorants, and kittiwakes. We even saw another bald eagle perched on the side of the rock, which is definitely the closest I've ever been to a bald eagle. And once we were back to Homer, we started our slightly nerve-wracking 5-ish hour drive back to Anchorage in the dark. Luckily, we didn't hit any moose. And that's all for Homer. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.